not only does he read the bits he's not supposed to read, but then he can't read the bits that he is supposed to read. It's absolutely extraordinary that this man is continuing to run inside the White House as if he is, in fact, the President of the United States of America. Unbelievable, isn't it? Joining me now, though, Donald Trump's former aide and friend of the programme, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, who has just been with, as he calls him, the boss, President Donald Trump. Sebastian, great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, I'm literally laughing my socks off here as I watch Joe Biden. He's 81 today, but he's not getting any better, is he?
No, and I'm sitting here right outside West Palm Beach Airport after seeing the guy who, really should be the president, who has more energy than I did at half his age. It's stunning. I mean, you laugh, and especially at the read that line again moment. But let's remind all of your viewers, Mike, this is the individual who 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, within 30 feet of his body, has a military aide with a large briefcase that is the nuclear football, with which he could launch thousands of nuclear weapons and ignite World War III. That's who we're talking about. This isn't some random politician or somebody's grandpa or some retired senator. This is the commander-in-chief, and that's why we've had the disastrous 3 years we've had. Remember, under my old boss, no new wars. No new wars. Then this guy comes in, we surrender Afghanistan. Vlad realized it's time to take Ukraine, and now we're on the precipice of World War III in the Middle East. That's because President Trump isn't in the White House, and this senile, doddering old man is.
It is quite extraordinary, isn't it? Because they now kind of watch him like a hawk, because we've all seen the other videos, which we didn't play. I'm not sure whether it's because my production staff was feeling too sorry for him. The ones of him falling down flat on his face, that navel thing. Today he makes a mistake by confusing not only Taylor Swift with Britney Spears, but he also seems to confuse them all with Beyoncé. He doesn't seem to know who's who. He thinks Beyoncé is playing down in Brazil. He thinks that Britney Spears is currently on tour. Does he know anything about the real world right now?
Well, look, he's 81 years old. Maybe he's not up on the latest chart toppers, but that's kind of irrelevant. On the campaign stage, so that's 4 years ago, standing next to him are his wife and his sister, and he doesn't. I know your viewers aren't going to believe this, but go and look. He actually doesn't know which is his wife and which is his sister. And when he gets it wrong, he has to apologize and says, oh no, sorry, you're my wife and you're my sister. That was 4 years ago, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, it is extraordinary. We're just watching him now where he was struggling to put his jacket on as he was getting out of Marine One. And I mean, but, I mean, even the Democrats now, because I've started to watch some of the stuff that you put out as well in the most recent couple of weeks, also on an awful lot of the other channels over there, a lot of Democrats are now saying, get rid of this guy.
Look, when CNN 2 weeks ago does 2 segments back-to-back on this guy being too old, in the last 10 days, we've had the Washington Post, ABC, and New York Times all run polls. This is the mainstream lying legacy left-wing media. All of them ran polls saying President Trump is crushing it in these swing states. 4 out of 5 swing states, those crucial American states, have my former boss between 5 and 7 points ahead of Biden. If you look, that's the Washington Post. That's the New York Times. If the elections were today, Mike, President Trump would stroll back into the Oval Office.
And meanwhile, in the Republican camp, they're still having these meaningless Republican debates, aren't they? Which, I mean, talk about after the Lord Mayor's show. I mean, why are they even bothering?
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. I can't go into details, but I was sitting with the president about an hour ago, and I mentioned this issue, and he said, okay, you stay quiet. I'm going to call up Ronna Romney McDaniel, the head of the RNC, the Republican National Congress, and I'll let you listen to exactly that point. When you are 55 points before the nearest competitor, whether it's the governor of Florida, whether it's the former UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, when you're 50 points ahead, Mike, why are you having debate? It's done and dusted. It's over.
Right. Yeah, debate's over. There is no point in having it. But also, all they're really doing is showing themselves up every single time it happens to be on. Not one of them seems to me to be fit for office, it seems.
What the debate before last, when you have Nikki Haley and Senator Tim Scott, who are from the same state, again, don't believe me, watch it on YouTube, arguing over who bought the curtains in the UN ambassador's residence. It's like a bad game of charade. It's an embarrassment. It is the furthest thing from presidential you could imagine. You're arguing over TikTok posts and the price of the curtains. Yeah, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good.
No. What else was the boss saying today? Because he's been in the news a little bit this week. He's having a bit of a row over his free speech. There was a strange tangent he went off on at a rally recently about the P-gate scenario. What's all that about?
Look, the thing that is of greatest concern to him, as it should be in any country, is open borders. We've got at least 8 million illegals that we know of have come into the country in the last
8 million?
years. And the other thing is, yeah, 8 million.
Crikey.
That we know of. That we know of. If you add that, the so-called getaways, the people who aren't encountered at all by Customs and Border Patrol, you can safely double that. So we're talking about 16 million. So, you know, I know you've got issues with the boat people coming across from Calais, but we have a slightly larger problem here. We're talking about millions of people. If 1%, if 0.5% are jihadi, are pro-Hamas, that is divisional size assets that could make 9/11 or 7/7 look like a walk in the park. So number one, the border we discussed. And number two, that should be concerned to everyone, is free and fair elections. If you don't have, there are many states in America, and I know this will shock people, where you don't have to show ID to vote. Mexico has voter ID. India, with over 1 billion people, have voter ID. This is rife for exploitation. And whatever you think about 2020, the fact that we don't have voter ID in the state where I live in Virginia, Mike, we have 45 days of voting. We have a Republican governor, and we have a month. It's not election day. It's month and a half day of voting. That's just Monty Python. That's just insanity and ripe for abuse.
Well, we just had the voter ID stuff come in, and despite all the lefties claiming it was going to completely ruin everything and nobody was going to be able to count on the votes that they could count on, suddenly when they won a couple of elections, they were like, yeah, maybe it's not so bad after all. I mean, it's pathetic.
Funny how that works, right?
It's absolutely pathetic. Sebastian, listen, I know you've got places to go, people to see. Lovely to talk to you. We'll come back to you very soon when you're back in the homestead of Washington, D.C. Sebastian Gorka there, reporting in fresh from his conversation with Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, in Florida. He's at West Palm Beach, a place I know very well. And he's off back to the heartland of the Democrats in Washington, D.C. Good luck to you, sir.